This changes everything. We've had some very high expectations for the Cleveland Cavaliers this season, but a recent article coming out talking about that those expectations might not be reciprocated among the front office, and I'm going to break all of this down. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Cavs Digest. I'm your host for today's episode, Darayus Sethna. Thanks so much for joining me on this fantastic Tuesday in November. Before I break everything down for you in today's video, make sure you go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to our Cavs Digest YouTube channel. You're not going to want to miss a moment on all things Cavs. Now with the play-in tournament, another play-in game cup game for the Cavs this Friday. That's thick in the swing of things. Cavs looking pretty good right now in the early stages of the season, so you're not going to want to miss a moment. Make sure you like these videos, and more importantly, subscribe to our Cavs Digest YouTube channel. All right, so going into today's video here, there was a recent article that came out and really just discussed that some of the long-term expectations of the Cleveland Cavaliers and how things might not necessarily be championship or bust. Now, I know Matt is kind of in a championship or bust mode. I've been, kind of giving off that sense of well, and I think that's really the vibe that a lot of Cavs fans feel this year is, you have all the talent, you have all the contracts set. You have a head coach who won Coach of the Year last year, Evan Mobley winning Defensive Player of the Year last year. All the pieces are in place. You have a quality bench. You're deep. You have the culture, just that workplace culture in place as well. So many things are set in key for this Cavaliers team. And, despite all of that, it seems like the front office is more focused on the long-term process rather than necessarily winning it all and putting all their chips in the table this year. So breaking this down a little bit more with the Cavs, like I said, with Evan Mobley, the expectations are incredibly high for him as an individual this year, for the team as well. I really do believe, for the Cavs, it's not Donovan Mitchell. They will go as far as Evan Mobley takes them, his growth, his development, more importantly, the intangibles, his leadership, his work ethic, continuing to build off of that and really taking this Cavs team to newer heights. Going into more of the front office expectations here, this is Fred Katz, who is a longtime NBA writer, now a senior writer for The Athletic, and he had a recent article that kind of broke down the Cavs front office expectations a little bit more. So let's get into this first quote from the article that Katz discusses regarding Koby Altman and the front office. The Cavs aren't working under any type of mandate, according to league sources. There is no demand that they must win a title or make the finals to justify the long-term price tag. Keeping the core together, remaining above the second apron, and gunning for a 2027 title is a distinct possibility. So that shows me right off the bat that the Cavs are not putting all their chips on the table this year. That Matt has, Matt talked about. I talked about it. That was really what the vibe was giving off is, Donovan Mitchell talked about all these high expectations, Kenny Atkinson, but at the end of the day, it shows you that they're more focused on, I think, the stability and keeping this core together maybe than, risking everything to go for a championship this year. And we've seen teams do that in the past. Obviously the 2024 Celtics, I think, are a really good example of, putting all your chips on the table, putting all these big contracts together, putting together a very elite team to go out there and win the title. And they were able to do that. And, once the wheels fell off in Boston, they blew up the team. Right now, obviously, have Tatum hurt throughout the year, but that's certainly, this current Celtics team is not what that 2024 championship team was here. And I think the Cavs kind of maybe want to avoid that situation based on this quote. The way I'm analyzing this quote is, rather than putting all their chips in the table, maybe let's spread things out, not force all these high expectations on everybody. Obviously, you want to win, make the playoffs, and make a good run, but doesn't necessarily have to end with the team hosting that Larry O'Brien trophy. Another quote in this article, this was a blog post on a different website that mentioned the article by Fred Katz. So the author of this article talking about even if the risk of a blow-up is not there, that does not mean the pressure is not existent. And that's something I just kind of hinted on. If you're Cleveland, this season is as good of an opportunity as ever to truly prove to the NBA world just how serious about winning a championship you are. Now, obviously, winning a championship would be amazing, and I think that's what these Cavs players, are all working for this season. It's why Darius Garland, Max Strus are working in the gym and rehabbing so they can come back and be big time contributors for this basketball team. So they're certainly not, just laying back in the sunshine. It's all sunshine and rainbows here. We're fine. Don't need to worry about anything. That's certainly not the case. And, watching the Cavs, whether it's been interviews, the way they play on the court, that's not the vibe I'm getting whatsoever. What I'm getting is that, especially now after reading this article by Fred Katz and, this blog post as well, is that it's not necessarily everything on the line this year. Maybe as much as Matt and I maybe had thought going into the season. Now going forward here, I think it's interesting because we see this in the NFL a lot too. The fan expectations are very different from the front office expectations. I think as fans, we say, we want to win now. We want that championship. We have very high standards of winning and competing. But when you look at it from a front office standpoint, they have to be realistic about it. They have to be professional. At the end of the day, they're not fans. They're getting paid professionally, by an organization, in this case, the Cleveland Cavaliers, to put that organization in the best position for not only current success, but long-term success. And I think in order to foster long-term success, you have to create this expectation that you're not necessarily going to put all your chips in the table right away. You embrace more, patience rather than go, go, go all the time. And I think as fans, that can feel weird sometimes, right? Because you want to win every game, you want to win the championship every single year. But from a front office standpoint, you have to face the reality of it and know that, hey, we've got these guys locked up, long term. The core four, we have them under contract, so we don't have to put all our chips in the table right away. So moving on as well with Koby Altman, Kenny Atkinson. Even if the Cavs don't win the championship this year, I'm not saying that's a given. That's obviously an incredibly hard thing to do. But let's say, they make a run and, they fall in the second round or the Eastern Conference Finals, right? I could definitely see changes in terms of, first and foremost, Jarrett Allen. What are they going to do with Jarrett Allen's contract? Because I mentioned this in the offseason. He takes a pay raise, an $8 million pay raise going into next year, and the Cavs don't really utilize him as much down the stretch of games. It has me shaking my head a little bit as to what's going on there. But at the end of the day, Jarrett Allen's going to take a pay raise. So what are they going to do there in order to stay within the limits of the salary cap? And then also, I think culturally, if the Cavs don't get it done or underachieve in the playoffs, I could see some cultural changes just in terms of how players are managed throughout the course of a season. Would Kenny Atkinson be harder on his players? Not saying that he doesn't coach them hard now, but will he have to have more of a leash on them? What will, how will he go about in terms of load management, that sort of thing? Will he coach different as well? Will his demeanor change? So I definitely think you could see some cultural changes. Nothing drastic, but definitely the way the Cavs maybe go about their business than they have in years past. But at the end of the day, that's still such a long ways away. We're still young into this season. Let's focus on getting out of 2025 first before we talk about the 2027 championship and what's to come, in that playoffs. So let's get to the 2026 playoffs and see what the Cavs can do there. You're starting to see some gelling. There was a good win last night against Milwaukee. Granted, Giannis Antetokounmpo did not play in the second half, but Donovan Mitchell once again doing Donovan Mitchell things. Evan Mobley playing well yesterday as well. Definitely bounced back against Memphis this past weekend after that struggle against Toronto last Thursday. So Cavs are now 10-5. You can definitely see some momentum starting to creep up within this team, which is a good thing. So to me, I think as fans, though, and I'm going to end the video saying this, despite what the front office thinks, despite that there's this narrative that they might not push all their chips into the table this year, you as fans need to still have those championship expectations and, wanting to win it all this year. Because let me tell you something, the East is wide open. Matt and I have talked about that ad nauseum all season long. The East has never been more wide open. So fans, because of that, you need to maintain a standard of championship or bust. If the Cavs can't get out of the East this year in as wide open as it's ever been, you need to scratch your heads a little bit. You need to be questioning that. You need to be critical. Why were you not able to get out of the Eastern Conference? And I think keeping those championship expectations is a good thing for the fan base. And I'm not saying the front office doesn't want to win it all this year or anything like that, but I'm just giving you, kind of being devil's advocate here. They have to look at it from a more holistic standpoint rather than we need to win it all this year right now, because the risks of doing that financially from a front office standpoint can get murky, as we saw with the Boston Celtics these last couple of years. But ultimately, things are good in Cleveland. The championship expectations are there. We'll see what Donovan Mitchell can continue to do as the Cavs try to finish out this homestand that they're on in winning fashion. Koby Altman, Kenny Atkinson, the leaders of this franchise. When we'll see what they can do as time progresses here. We're still very early in the season, haven't even completed a month of basketball yet, so still a lot to be determined. But what are your thoughts on this whole Cavs championship expectations talk? Let me know in the comments below, because I want to hear what you have to say, and make sure you like this video and subscribe to that Cavs Digest YouTube channel. I'll see you again for another episode covering the Cavs very soon. In the meantime, have a great rest of your Tuesday, and take care.